I want to briefly talk about the case against President Trump brought by the federal government concerning the documents. Welcome to Shakaama Politics with your host, Shakaama. So, I have a political science degree. I have a pre-law degree, which included an entire political science degree and history degree, among other things. It was 5 different degrees, and psychology degree. I also did 2 years in law school. I'm a third-year law school student. I don't have $100,000 to finish my law degree and to become a lawyer. I apologize for any popping that you hear. It's the Latinos in the area are celebrating early, even at midnight, which, of course, they're not supposed to do, but nobody can tell them anything, and the police have no motivation to tell them not to do it. The federal case brought against President Trump is trying to present a criminal case against President Trump. Here's the problem. The actual material fact of the case is not criminal. Is not criminal. They are trying to lasso in the Espionage Act from something like 1961, if I have my dates correct, and trying to apply that to a president of the United States. Let me tell you this. When a document touches the president of the United States' hand, he can classify it or declassify it at a whim. And he is the only person in the entire government, in the entire country, who can do that. Now, they keep talking about he was supposed to give up documents. No. Up until Richard Nixon, presidents kept all of their documents. It wasn't until Richard Nixon that they created the Presidential Records Act, which was created under a decree by the president. It's not a law. Congress didn't pass a law. There's no agency that created the regulation, nothing like that. And the entire impetus of the Presidential Records Act is, please, if we ask for the originals of documents, because we're talking about originals, we're not talking about those are the only copies of the document. No, they have all of the copies of the documents. Did you know that? They have all of the copies of the documents. That's not what they're after. They want the originals for posterity. Do you see how none of this is criminal? They want to archive the originals of the documents. And then in the actual filing of the case against President Trump, they included pictures of copious amounts of boxes. What they actually retrieved was something like 150 pages. 150. That's not a lot of document. 2 things happened. They went to Biden, and Biden said, go raid Mar-a-Lago. So they went and raided Mar-a-Lago under Biden's direct order. Point number 2. It was 21 days before the midterm election. That is key because the tradition is that nobody does anything impactful 20 days before an election. You say, well, Shakaama, that was 21 days. No, it started 21 days. They stayed there 2 days in Mar-a-Lago. All of those boxes, they searched all of that stuff. And they kept all of the lawyers out of Mar-a-Lago, which they're not supposed to do. So the entire thing is illegal. And the entire thing was for show to put the thumb on the election. Why is that? Because the Democrats were going to suffer a catastrophic defeat in the House and the Senate. Catastrophic. As in, they would have lost so many seats that as a party, they wouldn't have existed for all intents and purposes. They would have had as many seats as libertarians in Congress. And I believe there's only 2 libertarians in Congress? Oh, I'm sure you've never heard of a libertarian in Congress, but there are. The case is also rife with a bunch of ethics violations. You have people who have vested interests in seeing Trump go to jail, go to prison, or whatever they're trying to do. The point of a trial is supposed to be that an impartial judge presented evidence by an impartial district attorney or prosecutor of some sort, and the prosecutor is supposed to present evidence and prove the case. Well, here's the deal. The people who have expert lawyers who have taken a look at the actual filing said there's nothing here. There's absolutely nothing here. And there's absolutely nothing criminal. You can't rein in a president under the Espionage Act. A president only comes under the Presidential Records Act. The Presidential Records Act, at its most serious, is a civil lawsuit in civil court. And the only thing that they can do is say, please give us such and so document. There's much to do made about that the FBI, of all people, which had nothing to do with this, requested documents over and over and over. That is not true. Trump himself says they actually never did request anything. They have come out on TV and said this. They've come out and said this on camera. They've come out and said this in interviews, but they never actually did any sort of requests. And President Trump said that he was already talking to the archivists. And they said, we want you to keep the documents in such and so room with such and so lock, guarded by your Secret Service. Done. It was done. He did it. You cannot demand documents from a president or a former president. You can't. Only he will give documents to you if he so chooses. There is nothing to this case. And have you seen that the case was brought right when they came out with the accusation and possible indictment of Hunter Biden? So the very day that was coming out, they came out with the Trump indictment. This is all politics to manipulate the news cycle. So instead of talking about Hunter Biden all day, which was the only thing that they had going that day, instead they were talking about the indictment against Trump. Same thing with the New York case, that indictment. There is nothing criminal there. Nothing criminal. At its worst, falsification of records, of business records, is a misdemeanor, and it is only local. It doesn't arrive to the level of being a felony, one, and the way that they got to felony was claiming a federal violation, which District Attorney Braggs does not have jurisdiction over. He has no standing to bring a federal case, which was talking about voter fraud. That's federal. The Department of Justice already took a look at all of that and said, no, there's nothing here. There is no case here. There is no voter fraud. There's nothing. That occurred before District Attorney Braggs even brought his indictment, even brought together the grand jury. And don't get confused by a grand jury. I, not even a lawyer, can call a grand jury and say, I want you to indict this potato salad for being criminally bad. And the grand jury would indict the potato salad. That is the level of strictness that a grand jury has. There is no strictness whatsoever. So don't get all excited that a grand jury indicted somebody. Anybody can do that. For somebody to call a grand jury and to not actually get an indictment from it means that the case is terrible, is awful, and that the person doing the presentation is awful themselves and should probably not be practicing law. Anyway, that's it. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.